studied with a woman, Judith Rose, in Muncie, New York, and she is a student of a woman named Yehudit Goldfarb, who created a movement system based on the Hebrew letters. And the most interesting part of studying the Hebrew letters and the movement of the Hebrew letters, because when I came back I was like, I wasn't really looking to find a spiritual modality for the aleph-bet. I was just looking to meet other Jewish women in the arts. And a girlfriend of mine, Connie, said to me, I'll come over. I said, I went and I learned these aleph-bet movements. Do you want to, hear about it? So she said, and the woman who taught me the aleph-bet movement said, you don't study the letters individually. You study them as part of a piece of a pasuk, of a tractate of Torah or of Psalms. So when you practice the letters, you're going to always use it in combination with a prayer or studying a passage of Torah. So I said, okay, to my girlfriend, I said, if you want to check this out with me, we'll go and we'll pick a pasuk of Torah here. I'm going to come up with 3 pasukim, and let's decide which one we want to try first. So I think I said maybe Shema Yisrael, a very universal prayer, Hine Matov U'Manayim, which is a prayer about brotherhood, and then there was it's a prayer about Jewish women, Eshes Chayil Miyimtza. We sing it on Friday night, and I just so happened to have several books with all kinds of commentaries and the inner Kabbalistic meanings of the prayer. So I said to her, I think what I really want to do is use Eshes Chayil. And she kind of went back and forth. Well, I'm a bit of a feminist. I'm not really sure that I'm interested. Talks about, the wife of and the mother of. And I said, well, I have some really interesting study material on it. And why don't we just try one time? And I started reading about the prayer and how it's not really about a woman and a man. It's really about God and the Jewish people, or your soul and its journey on earth, because the neshama is really a feminine entity. So your soul is like a woman, or like a female, the female component of the Shekhinah. And we started going into the studio on a weekly basis, and I would take the weekly portion of Torah, and I would take this pasuk, and I would start interspersing the teachings as we were dancing, and we would repeat the letters over and over. And the most amazing insights would come to me while we were dancing and talking about the shape of the letter, the sound of the letter. Every letter has a numerical value. So when we started looking at the letter and its numerical value and the sound and the shape and how it was juxtaposed in the word, whether it was the first letter or it was next to so an aleph is next to a shin and a shin is next to a taf, similar to like in the word emes. So it's very similar. It's aleph, shin, taf. You started seeing that the beginning of the word was flame. And then if you took the first letter and the last letter, it spelled another word, which is like the first pasuk in the Torah, when it talks about God created heaven and he created earth. And now if you take the last letter and the first letter of the word woman in this prayer, it creates like the same position of the letters in the first word, in the first pasuk in the Torah. And what does that mean? And we started just like bringing in all these insights, and I was fascinated how deep I started understanding Torah in a totally different way. And the vehicle was dance. And I found a whole new relationship with prayer and study and understanding, some of the different avenues of how Kabbalah teaches us that there's hidden messages in the Torah. And I'd seen classes on hidden messages, but dancing with women and putting together different sources. And I think what I really came up with, which was very much like we were talking about before, is that if you start out with any of the information, and as you kind of weave the information together, it continues to just reflect and kind of refract the same truth. It just keeps refracting. So the Torah would just keep getting deeper, and we'd find more interrelationships in the thoughts and the letters and the ideas. And I realized the Torah is so true, because it just kept getting, the subject kept getting larger, and the interest and the thing we were trying to look at just kept getting more illuminated and more illuminated the more we brought in other sources. So if we were, studying Tanya and Mishlei and Parsha and this prayer, and then suddenly it was like, oh, and Rivka was the one who went to the well, and that was why she did mitzvahs, and that's the letter Mem, and that's why we have 40, and 40 is the letter Mem, and there's 40 segments of water in the mikvah, and the mikvah is pure, and it was endless. It was really infinite, and that's what they talk about Torah, that the knowledge is infinite. And I just felt privileged to have the opportunity to interact with the information and bring movement into it, because it makes it so much more alive for me. And I think it's bringing together different elements and finding how Torah informs my dance and dance informs my Torah, and when I put them together, it's just like it becomes that much more exciting. But also I find I get more insight when I'm using this physical medium and I'm interacting with spiritual and, academic and intellectual, and somehow there's just like this incredible explosion, because they each kind of illuminate the other, and it just becomes deeper, and I find it incredibly interesting, and feel fortunate to have had the opportunity and have opportunities to work with it. I'm excited to start working in the community on projects that I think there's a lot of interesting developments in terms of finding ways to create educational models to help, whether it's marriage education or emotional, socio-emotional education. So, teaching kids how to deal with their emotions, I think, is a very big one. Teaching kids how to communicate, teaching adults, communication skills, because at the end of the day, we can be spiritual, but we have to be able to integrate how we deal day to day in our lives. And I think that the bulk of our day is spent here dealing with each other, and I think it's really important that the schools and the different institutions that are out there, facilitate more dialogue on social skills, communication skills, intrapersonal and interpersonal skills, where people get in touch with themselves emotionally and see how great they are, because I think a lot of us don't even see the good even within ourselves. And I think there's so much of an emphasis today in career and getting information, and we have to step back, and we have to reconnect with ourselves and reconnect with how we want to be just within ourselves and within our emotions, and see that we're all beautiful created beings from God, and Hashem has given us wonderful things. And I think that I've seen through some of the interactions that I've had with some of the mental health clinicians, and the importance of really just teaching self-love, because self-love is where it starts. So we can, it says love your fellow as yourself, but you have to start with self-love as the first as the first place, and try and deal with the normal frustrations that come into our lives, and everybody has them. There's all kinds of challenges that we're given just before we even start to deal with the rest of the world, and how do we recognize where our emotions are taking us in ourselves, and how we deal with those, and how we deal with others. And I think that that's a good, there's a good lot that needs to happen just in society in general. Again, we're talking about there's so many things going on out there that are, lamentable, where people are obviously not getting the help that they need. So I think that that's something that I'm looking to help facilitate and support.